So, ladies and gentlemen, our first part of our Oliver Reed two-part series, we looked at his many career accomplishments, both on screen, on television, music, documentary, narration. So in this second part, we're going to talk about the legend of Oliver Reed, because if you know a lot of the stories about his drinking with Keith Moon and his various sundry activities both on and off the screen, it has to be told to be believed. Now, we're going to start in 1964, when Reed was in the Crazy Elephant nightclub in Leicester Square and got into a dispute at a bar with a couple of men that ended with Reed walking away with a dismissive remark. They waited until he went to the toilet, followed him in, and attacked him with broken bottles. He received 63 stitches in the attack in one side of his face and was left with permanent scarring, and initially thought his film career was over. Now, according to his brother, subsequent to the attack, when arguing, the burly Reed would bring his hands up in a gesture that was defensive, but many men found very intimidating. In 1993, Reed was unsuccessfully sued by his former stuntman, stand-in friend Reg Prince, for an alleged spinal injury occurred by the latter while on location for the filming of Castaway. Now, he claimed to have turned down major roles in 2 Hollywood movies, including The Sting, although he did appear in the 1983 sequel, The Sting 2, and also Jaws, both taken over by Robert Shaw. Now, when the 1972 UK government raised taxes on personal income, Reed initially declined to join the exodus of major British film stars to Hollywood and other more tax-friendly locales. In the late 1970s, Reed relocated to Guernsey as a tax exile. He sold his large house, Broome Hall, between the villages of Cole Harbour and Oakley, some years earlier, and initially lodged at the Duke of Normandy Hotel in St. Peter Port. Now, Reed often described himself as a British patriot and preferred to live in the UK over relocating to Hollywood. He was also a staunch conservative and supporter of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and British military efforts during the Falklands War. According to Robert Sellers, Reed tried re-enlisting at age 44 in the British Army following the outbreak of the conflict, but was turned down. Now, in 2013, the writer Robert Sellers published What Fresh Lunacy Is This?, the authorized biography of Oliver Reed. Great read, by the way, if you ever have a chance. Now, Reed was known for his alcoholism and binge drinking. Numerous anecdotes exist, such as Reed and 36 friends drinking in one evening 60 gallons of beer, 32 bottles of scotch, 17 bottles of gin, 4 crates of wine, and a bottle of baby sham. Now, Reed subsequently revised the story, claiming he drank 106 pints of beer in a 2-day binge before marrying Josephine Burge. The event that was reported actually took place during an arm wrestling competition in Guernsey about 15 years ago. It was highly exaggerated. In the late 1970s, Steve McQueen told a story that in 1973, he flew to the UK to discuss a film project with Reed, who suggested that the two of them visit a London nightclub. They ended up on a marathon pub crawl throughout the night, during which Reed got so drunk that he threw up on McQueen. Now, Reed eventually became a close friend and drinking partner of my spiritual uncle, the Who's drummer Keith Moon, in 1974, while working together on the film version of Tommy. Now, with their reckless lifestyles, Reed and Moon had much in common, and both cited the hard-drinking actor Robert Newton as a role model. Sir Christopher Lee, a friend and colleague of Reed, commented on his alcoholism in 2014. When he started, after drink number 8, Reed was a complete monster. It was an awful thing to see. Now, Reed was often irritated at his appearance on television chat shows, concentrated on his drinking feats, rather than his acting career in latest films. Now, on September 26, 1975, while Reed was interviewed by Johnny Cash on The Tonight Show, Shelley Winters, angered by derogatory comments Reed had made about feminists and women's liberation, poured a cup of whiskey over his head on camera. Years later, on August 5, 1987, Letterman cut to a commercial when Reed became belligerent after being asked too many questions about his drinking, after pointing out that Letterman's researcher had already been told that Reed did not want to talk about drinking during his appearance on his talk show. Now, Reed was, of course, partly responsible for the demise of BBC One Sin on Saturday, after some typically forthright comments on the subject of lust, the sin featured on the first program. The series also had other issues, and a fellow guest revealed that Reed recognized this when he arrived and virtually had to be dragged in front of the cameras. Near the end of his life, he was brought onto some television shows specifically for his drinking. For example, the Word put bottles of vodka in the dressing room so he could be secretly filmed getting drunk. According to Reed, the whole thing was a stunt. I knew all about the secret camera and the vodka was water, and he was paid to act drunk. Reed left the set of the Channel 4 television discussion program After Dark after arriving drunk and attempting to kiss feminist writer Kat Millett, uttering the phrase, "Give us a kiss, big tits." Good pickup line. Now, however, Evil Spirits, biography of Reed that was written by Cliff Goodwin, offered a theory that Reed was not always as drunk on chat shows as he appeared to be, but rather was acting the part of an uncontrollably sodden former star to liven things up at the producer's behest. In October 1981, Reed was arrested in Vermont when he was tried and acquitted of disturbing the peace while drunk. However, he pled no contest to assault charges and was fined $1,200. In December 1987, Reed, who was overweight and already suffered from gout, became seriously ill with kidney problems as a result of his alcoholism and had to abstain from drinking for over a year on the advice of his doctor. Now, in his final years when he lived in Ireland, Reed was a regular in a one-roomed O'Brien's bar in Churchtown, County Cork, close to the 13th century cemetery in the heart of the village where he would be buried. Now, Reed's death is the way maybe a lot of people thought he was going to go, but even Reed didn't expect it, because when you die, you don't expect it. He died from a heart attack during a break from filming Gladiator in Valletta, Malta, on the afternoon of May 2nd, 1999. According to eyewitnesses, he drank 8 pints of German lager, a dozen shots of rum, half a bottle of whiskey, and a few shots of Hennessy cognac in a drinking match against a group of sailors on shore leave from the HMS Cumberland at a local pub. His bar bill totaled a little over 270 Maltese lira, about 600 US. After beating 5 much younger Royal Navy sailors at arm wrestling, Reed suddenly collapsed, dying while en route to the hospital in an ambulance. He was only 61. Now, the actor Omid Dajali, who was also in Malta at the time of Reed's death filming Gladiator, said during a 2016 interview he hadn't had a drink for months before filming started. Everyone said he went the way he wanted, sober, but that's not true. It was very tragic. He was in an Irish bar and was pressured into a drinking competition. He should have just left, but he didn't. Having made a number of promises to Ridley Scott prior to filming, including that he would not drink during production, Reed worked around this by only drinking on weekends. His co-star, the great David Hemmings, was a longtime friend of Reed's, and in 2020 Scott stated, David Hemmings, Cassius, promised to look after him and said to me upon his death, "I'm really sorry, old boy." A funeral of Reed was held in Churchtown in Ireland, where he had resided during the last years of his life. His body was interred in Churchtown's Bruni graveyard. The epitaph on his gravestone reads, "He made the air move." Now, as a result of his death, Reed's remaining scenes in Gladiator had to be completed using a body double and computer-generated imagery through CGI. Despite this, he was possibly nominated for a BAFTA for Best Supporting Actor. But Russell Crowe eventually said in 2010, "I never got on with Ollie. He has visited me in dreams and asked me to talk kindly of him, so I should. But we never had a pleasant conversation." So Oliver Reed, to me, will never see somebody like him again. There's only one thing I can say. For the 60 years he was on this planet, the amount of talent, the amount of work he put in stands for itself. But he was a precursor to the action heroes. But if he would have lived a life, it's 2020 only. If he would have lived under 20 years, he could have done Game of Thrones. He could have done like a Marvel movie, a DC movie. This man had talent to burn. But like I said, just like Richard Harris, just like Richard Burton, just like Peter O'Toole, he liked to drink. He liked the women. He liked the challenge. And like I said, he was your typical angry young man. Don't know what he was angry at, but give him something he could probably find out. But I don't know. Many people could drink with Keith Moon. If I'm not mistaken, Keith Moon was a little bit. I think he was a little bit younger than Oliver when he passed. Moon was 78. I think around the same age. So I mean, they were the oldest 30-year-old people on the planet, literally and figuratively. But excuse me, Oliver was 40, and Keith, I think, was 36, 37. But what a life. What a life. And you know something? You were talking about Russell Crowe in my dreams, Terry. Every time I dream heavy or whatever, Oliver Reed's always there, and he's always having a drink at a bar. So I don't know. It's my old alcoholism that I mentioned in the first part coming back when I told that lady, well, if you don't know who Oliver Reed is, you're full of shit. So, I mean, I tried being like Oliver Reed for a few months, and it almost killed me. So I wouldn't recommend that. I wish I had his talent too. I've tried. If I have 1/1000 of Oliver Reed's talent as a sports reporter and a news editor, I'll be very, very happy to say. I can tell you this: if I have 1/1000, let's say that I have 1/1000 of the talent of Oliver Reed, and that's enough for me. Anything more would cause me to drink, as we like to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our 2-part screenshots and remote control for this week as a tribute to all my readers out there that used to check out my columns in the Irving papers. Anyway, lift one for Oliver Reed tonight and tell Shelley Winters to go fuck herself, because that's what I would do if she's still alive. Never liked her, never will. And when Oliver Reed and her fought, that was good enough for me. You know who I was taking up for. Have a good evening. Bye.